Hello everyone, I am back with my review of the Xperia Play, and I've got tons to talk about, so we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. The device has held up really well. I took it to PAX, of course, and I've had it all over town, and it's held up just great. There's not really any scratches or anything that I see. I thought that would pick up a lot of crud because it's a white unit, but no, it's working pretty well. All the buttons and everything work. There's no scratches or anything right here on the faceplate. On even the screen, there's not really a lot of scratches, so I guess that cheapo eBay screen protector is, doing its job pretty well. The only part that seems to have worn down just a little bit is right here. Let me see if we could focus. Focus, please. Focus. There we go. Alright, you see those two little chips right there? It seems that the silver paint on that back button, it seems to have chipped off just a little, and I know how that happens. It happens because when I'm using this, that's the menu button. That's how I get to the main menu or exit the game, whatever I need to do. And so when I'm doing that, I'll usually just play it and then I'll hit it. But you see, sometimes my nail will, and then that's why it's chipped away. So unfortunately, those little buttons right there, they're not the best, but they'll do. It also has this little menu button right here, but all it does is take you to the previous menu, and hitting it again doesn't take you to the one before. So it's not as useful as this button right here. But, oh well, this one is really the one that you're going to use the most, and unfortunately it seems that the paint isn't the best right there. But otherwise, the unit is just great. I mean, it's really held up. I expected the hinge mechanism to, be loose or whatever, but no, it's held up just well. Then again, I've only had it for a few weeks, so maybe over time it's not going to be as great, but we'll see. I thought that was going to be a weak point. I expected it to, but no, it works just well. Now, let me see what else I want to talk about on this. The shoulder buttons, yeah, they're pretty bad. While I was using it, it wasn't the best to use them like that. But as far as the buttons were just great, face buttons and everything. The other thing that I forgot to mention in the announcement video when I said that I was going to review this, I forgot to show you guys the D-pad because it is a real D-pad. You would think that this sort of thing was one of those Chinese D-pads where it's 4 different buttons. But no, if you can tell, the whole thing moves whenever you move one direction. So it is a one-piece D-pad, and that really surprised me. It's very clicky, and that's not entirely a bad thing, but I wish that it was raised just a little bit higher than it is right here. It's very low profile, and it just doesn't give you the feel that, an NES D-pad would have. But obviously with something this small, I wasn't expecting that. Alright, now let's get into the software and check out this. Okay, we wake it up by pressing the little power button right here, just tapping it once, and then it wakes the unit up, and it went back to sleep. Alright, we'll open it up. I don't have it locked or anything, so I just open it up, and then boom, check this out. It instantly brings me to this little menu, and I did not do this. It did this all on its own. When I would install a new emulator on here, it would instantly get on this little front end, which is really, really cool. And so yeah, it has Xperia Play games, so I don't know why emulators are finding its way on this little toolbar, but it's really cool. And also touchscreen. I need to start using the touchscreen because I'm used to all these Chinese handhelds where they don't have a touchscreen, or mandatorily have to use the buttons and the D-pad to navigate. But no, this is really cool that you could just use your little touchscreen right here. So anyways, let's get into the emulation. As far as NES, and before I get into that, as far as the software goes, one of the things I said that I was going to do was root this device, but I ended up not doing that because I really, planned this out poorly. So I held it up right till the end of the wire, right before the day before my plane took off to go to PAX South. That's the day that I was setting this up, the night before. And yeah, so I didn't have a lot of time. I was right down to the wire, and I knew that it was going to be hell for a noob like me to root this device and install the custom ROM and everything. So I actually decided not to do that. I am just running this on the stock firmware, stock everything. It doesn't even update anymore. I guess it doesn't have connections to those Sony update systems. I don't know. But either way, this is running out of, basically the factory install, and it's working really well. I did it initially just because I was like, look, I just want to get this thing working so I could take it to PAX, but it's working way better than what I expected, and that's why I haven't actually rooted it even to today, because it's just working so well. I don't want to lose everything that I've got right here. So let's take a look at what we have here. Here's the 2600 emulator. Bruce Lee, this is one of the games that is already on here, It doesn't ship. It's kind of weird. It doesn't ship with the game on it, but it lets you download it from some server out there in outer space or whatever. So yeah, Bruce Lee, you download that. It's an okay game, whatever. FIFA 10, I've never played. I think I have a download though. Madden 11, I hope I don't have that download because I never intend to play that. And Star Battalion, that's another one which is actually pretty good. And these are all free. These came with the device, even though you have to download it, and it downloads onto the SD card because of an issue that I'm going to tell you about in just a sec. But yeah, so it downloads onto the SD card, but that's totally a free game. And not only that, but let's get to the menu. And as you can see, I've like not even set this up as a phone or anything. It's still it's pretty much stock except for everything that I've installed on here, but I don't even have like a background or anything. Anyways, Crash as well is one that you could download off of that server thing. And that's just amazing to me because it's like Sony can't even get PS1 games on PS4, and an Xperia player, an old device that they don't even support, can download Crash Bandicoot for free from some Sony server somewhere. It's try to say that 7 times fast. But yeah, it's just amazing that that this thing still gets support from those little downloads for those games. But yeah, so Crash works pretty well, and as you can see, I just do that little flick, and then it brings me back to this little menu. So yeah, now the reason why it has to download to the SD card is probably one of the biggest weak points of this device. This device only has 400 megabytes of memory, of internal memory. That's not a typo or anything. It's not 4 gigs. It's not 40 gigs. No, 400 megabytes worth of storage. How? Oh, God, this thing... It must be from a different time when that was considered adequate. I think they actually did ship with like an 8 gig SD card, like out of the box. So maybe that's how they justified it. But 400 megabytes? That's insane. I don't know why they did that. But, oh well. So let's get back into the system. And shoot, I'm going to have to flick again. But I don't really mind it. That only takes a second. Some of you might think that's annoying. One other thing. I keep on forgetting about everything that I was going to talk about. But get this. This is something that I didn't even notice. And I bet you some of you even didn't notice when I opened this up. I wouldn't have noticed it unless somebody told me in the comments in the last video, in the video before I went to PAX. But the screen is offset. Do you see this? The screen is a little bit to the right. So, you see, it's kind of pushed just a little bit to the right to make room for the logo. Oh god, the most important thing. And yeah, that doesn't bother me, but if you're OCD, that is totally gonna flip you out. So do not buy this if you're OCD, okay? And anyways, let's get into the emulation. So the NES emulator, it works pretty well. The only problem is that there seems to be a little bit of audio crackling. Let's see if we could see that with Mega Man, maybe. I don't think you guys can notice it, but I did notice a little bit of crackling in the audio, and it doesn't really sound great. It sounds terrible. And so yeah, otherwise it works really well. There's not a lot of lag. There is lag, but it's barely noticeable. So I was hoping that with an Android system, I wouldn't have to deal with lag, and of course people were giving this thing rave reviews, but there is unfortunately some lag right here. It's not something you're going to notice in a lot of games, but like for instance, when I was trying to speedrun Super Mario Brothers, usually I'm able to jump on those little pipes in stage 1. In fact, let me go ahead and just get to that. Alright, when we get to those first pipes, I'm going to try to go ahead and jump on those the way that I usually do when I'm speedrunning, but I don't know if it's actually going to work. Let's see. Ah, you see? I missed it. And usually I don't miss that. I mean, I've sped run this thing. Is that the proper term? Anyways, I've done enough speed runs with this that I can do it pretty much just from muscle memory. But I cannot jump on those pipes from one to the next without that. Let's see. Because there is that little bit of lag. It's just a fraction of a second, but that fraction of a second gets me on this game. Let's try to jump again. Oh shoot, did I screw up? I think so. Here we go. Jump! Oh, I actually made it! You see, some of you are going to say that, oh, well, you see, because you're a dumbass, so you just missed it the first time. Oh, you're an idiot. Yeah, I am, but still, it is lag. I can assure you it is lag. The other one that I should test out, and yeah, let's go ahead and exit out of this emulator right here. Let's go into the Mega Drive. And of course, one of the games I use to test lag all the time is Subterranea. Subterranea is a great game, and you see, I was right here in the little testing arena, which is where I usually test lag right here. So, and you know what? Let's even do my patented lag test, because there's the Genesis controller, and now let's test lag. I'll slow this down for us. Okay, doing a little testing. And I bet you I will be able to slow this down and show that there is lag on this device. But anyways, let's go ahead and try to run rings around it, and then you're going to see that the lag comes back. The lag is... Oh, I just ran out of fuel. Usually on original hardware connected to a CRT television, I am able to run rings around this little test area, and now I can't do it because the lag is getting in the way. It just feels really off. And, you see, now I'm doing well. Yeah, right when I want to show you guys lag, that's when... you see, I usually wouldn't do that, but you see I clipped into the walls and everything because the lag is just getting in the way. The really bad thing about it is that it's not just a delayed button press, but the worst thing about lag is that it also delays the release of a button. So it feels like you're holding on to the controls a little too long. And I mean, you can compensate for that a little bit in your mind, like what I'm doing right here. I was about to say I'm not doing that bad, but yes, I apparently am. Usually you can compensate for that a little bit, but it does catch up to you. It's just something that you can't really get over without it feeling very awkward. And that's something that retro gamers don't like, and that's why we don't like HD consoles and anything that introduces a bit of lag. So let's get out of this too. The Genesis and NES emulation is pretty damn good, especially Genesis. I didn't really see any problems with that at all. Alright, and now we're going to try Super NES emulation. I'm using SNES 9X EX Plus, which is apparently the latest and greatest in Android emulation. It didn't launch. There we go. Sometimes when I quit, I have to select it twice. Yeah, some people, you guys are gonna hold it back for that, but still, I don't really see that as a big problem. Okay, so now here's Yoshi's Island. Let's continue. Alright. And by the way, it always lets you continue from where you left off. It's so beautiful. I love this emulator. Yeah, so here we go. And you guys are going to see that there's a lot of frame skip that happens when there's a lot of things happening all at once on screen. For instance, here we go. You see that frame skip? Frame skip is activated on this because I just want to make sure that I can even run the game at a respectable speed. Let me show you what happens when I turn frame skip off. Alright, go to the menu, options, video, skip is off. And now look, it's so slow. Yeah, even the audio is just screwing up. Oh my god. Yeah, you see this is not running smoothly at all. And so, let me go ahead and change that back. Video, frame skip on. Let's try it with HQ2X. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, HQ2X. That's that little thing where it smooths out the pixels. I don't like it. I think only freaks use it. And yeah, it's not that great, but it does contribute to even further frame skip. So that's why and I just died. Yeah, that's why a lot of people... well, a lot of people don't like it just because it makes the pixels look kind of muddy. They think that it's not authentic, and I agree. I don't think it looks very well. It doesn't look good, but yeah, it's not the best, but I just hate it that it slows everything down on this one because the unit is underpowered. I'm going to tell you that right now. The Xperia Play, it's not powerful. It's not a powerhouse. SNES emulation is a problem on this, and it's just a matter of the unit just not being powerful enough. Because like I said, with the WikiPad, it'll just run flawlessly. Even with all the, image options like HQ2X, even with scan lines and everything, it just runs great. Because, of course, it has the Tegra chip, it's a lot more powerful. Whereas this one, it uses a prehistoric chip, which I think it's just a little bit over 1 gigahertz. And, yeah, it's just not up to snuff these days. Just like the memory at 400 megabytes, this thing is from a different era. Anyways, yeah, so Super NES, that is a problem with this device. It's not working well, but I think it might just be that emulator because I saw some people who were reviewing the Xperia Play when it was new, and it was working just fine with another SNES emulator. I think it was SNESnoid, and it worked just fine. So I think it is a problem with just that emulator. For some reason, it's acting up now. And let's get into more emulation. Game Boy Advance. You know what? I'm just going to roll footage for this one. It works well. I didn't see any problems with it at all. I even tried some more demanding games like Car Battler Joe, Golden Sun. It hiccuped just a little bit, like in some of the fight scenes, but some of the combat scenes, RPG turn-based stuff, and otherwise it was just fine. Game Boy Color, likewise, I'll just roll footage. It's fine, it's perfect. Everything can do Game Boy emulation pretty much, I think, except for that $5 handheld. And let's see. Now let's get into PSX emulation. You know what? First though, C64, I couldn't get it to work. I think I'm just not using the right files because I do have C64 ROMs on this, but it's just not finding them. I think they have to be in like maybe bin format or something stupid. Atari 2600 works fine. There is a little lag though because, again, I should just say it has the lag all the time, but it's barely noticeable. In some games, like Hero, where you have to really be precise, that is where you're going to see some lag. And unfortunately, it's there. I've tried to correct it and it just doesn't work. I usually try to run these emulators at the highest setting they'll allow me to. Sometimes that's at three times speed or processing power, whatever. I usually put the emulators on priority for the processing if the option allows me to. But there's just lag. You're going to have to deal with it. And now let's try out PS1, and I'm using EPSXE. Let me go with preferences first, because when I was first trying out games on this, it was having a lot of compatibility problems. Some games just wouldn't load, and others that would, they would get like 20 or 30 FPS, and it was basically unplayable. It was way too slow, and yeah, it just wasn't playable. So I updated the BIOS to SPCH 7502, and also I was messing with the simulated BIOS option, and that seemed to be helping out a lot. So there are some games that it helps if you leave it disabled or enabled. I have it on auto detect right now, but even that didn't give the best results. So it really depends, but make sure that you try out that option first. At least from what I saw, that seemed to get good results. One of the things that did not help though is OpenGL. That option is way down here, but yeah, it always told me online, there were always all these help guides which said, first thing you gotta do is update the OpenGL plugin. I did update that, and it seemed to make the games run worse. So I don't know if the current OpenGL plugin is broken or what, but I could swear to you that it was giving me even worse playability than what I was having before. So I still have the original one running on here that I downloaded the emulator with, and that seems to be getting the best results. Now, as far as the games though, let's check out my games list. And it always has to search. I hate that. I wish it would just save the game list right there. But it is pretty cool when you have your ISO files on here. It does like automatically find the image file associated with it. So I actually didn't put that image file there. That's the way that it just loads up on here. And I was playing a lot of Castlevania while I was down there at PAX. Others like Ghost in the Shell, I've been able to get running at a very playable frame rate, like around 40, 50 frames per second, actually closer to 50. And Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, those ones are working just fine. Silent Bomber, that's one that I've always wanted to play, and everybody always recommended it to me, but it was almost unplayable, so I had to mess around with the settings. Again, on some of these you just have to fiddle with the settings, and I don't even know what the settings mean really a lot of times, but just mess with them and you can actually get some good results from this. And Silent Bomber, I was able to get it working really, really well. So it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a perfect smooth 60 frames per second, but it was about 45 to 50 frames per second, and that was definitely playable, a lot better than what I had seen before. And it's a really fun game too. Alright, now there is one big problem with PS1 emulation here, and that is that there's only 2 shoulder buttons. Of course, the regular PS1 has 4. So I did take care of that problem though, and it's pretty clever. Let me show you. Alright, I usually don't have this overlay on here, but I went ahead and selected it to give me an overlay just to show you guys. As you can see, I'm still using the buttons right here on the bottom, but I went ahead and made redundant buttons on the touchscreen. So as you guys can see, there's L2 and R2, and there's all the other face buttons there too. But I pretty much just did this just so I could have L2 and R2 right there on the corners. So whenever I need L2 and R2 to do like a transformation, there you go. I'm able to use it. Pretty clever, huh? But yeah, oh, so great. And yeah, so it works brilliantly. It works perfectly. Alrighty, now let's get out of this and let me show you the most impressive emulator of them all. Let me show you. That tile belongs to Mupen64 Plus, the N64 emulator. I almost didn't even test N64 because I was like, this thing, it can't even handle Super NES. How the hell is it going to do N64? But, let me show you. Oh, it's starting me from the beginning. Damn it! Okay, jump cut. Alrighty, here's my save game. And let me show you why this is so cool. Let me show you. Oh, this is so awesome. Watch this. And by the way, here's the frames per second if you can read that small. But check this out. The analog sticks actually work. The analog sticks work for the N64 emulation. That's awesome. So this is like an N64 pad. And get this. The right analog stick, that's the C stick. So watch. You see? It works just as the C stick should. And N64 is totally playable on this. Look at this. Ah, it's so great. Come here, you elephant dude. I think I need to race him. You know what? Let's just change vehicles. The only thing that's bad about this, though, is that and by the way, you can see that there's like a little bit of stuttering that happens when like something important happens on screen, which is kind of sad, but whatever. But another thing is that the analog stick, it doesn't work that well, but whatever. It's a touchpad. I knew that it wasn't going to be perfect, but I'll just deal with it. And oh, I can go through here. But you see, oh, it's so great. Oh, damn it! They took away my plane. Aww. Oh well, let's go into a race. Ah, this thing actually works. But you just have to be a little bit careful. It's a little sensitive, and during races I tend to bug out, and then I sort of give it too much pressure. What's it? Okay. Damn, I missed the boost. But okay. I still can't believe this works. This is so great. And it's like custom to the Xperia Play. Like they made a setting that just says Xperia Play, and that's how they got the thing to work. And I'm losing horribly because I'm trying to review and do this at the same time. Yay! Rocket. Come on. Oh, God. This thing, I've already won like a few races, but it is a little harder than it should be, than it normally is. So that kind of sucks, but I mean, again, you've got N64 running on an Xperia Play. What the hell else do you want? I mean, this thing is great. Ah, oh, this thing is so awesome. And so yeah, it takes a little getting used to, but you can totally play N64 on this thing. And they just did an awesome job. The audio, it hiccups just a little bit, but again, I am so willing to take all the downsides just to have N64 right on this. But, and that's one of the things I should really say that the early reviews that I saw about the Xperia Play, you know, back when people got these when they were new, N64 emulation, it ran like dog shit. It was absolutely terrible. And just as terrible as me racing right here. But yeah, so the emulation was just bad, and especially the controls, like they were usually mapped to the D-pad. And of course that sucks with N64. But they've made so much progress, and that's actually one of the things I need to point out in my review, that a lot of people in the comments, when I said that I was going to review this, they were like, oh my god, the Xperia Play, it's so fucking it's so shitty, oh my god, you're going to hate it. But no, I absolutely love it. It seems like the emulators have gotten better over time, even if the Xperia Play is just as slow as it was before. So that's the best thing about this device, that it's Android, and I know that you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of Android, but it just seems like the emulators have kept up with the times even if the handheld hasn't, and so it still feels really good. Hey, I got first place! I didn't even know I was in the lead. You see, this thing is totally playable. You could totally play with this. Ah, it's awesome. Okay, I think I need to give my closing thoughts on this device. I love it. I think it's great. And of course there's a little bit of lag. I mean, you have to deal with that. That's a deal killer for some people. Some people are also going to say it's a deal killer that it could barely do Super NES, at least with the emulator that I tried. Again, I've seen it with my own eyes on video. You can look it up yourself. There are people who had other emulators like SNESnoid, and they were running just fine on this thing. So I think it is just that emulator. Maybe one of the plugins isn't working right. I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. But yeah, so I think that can be fixed, even if, my evidence I saw, it wasn't too promising. But I think about what we do have. I mean, we have NES, Genesis, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, PS1, and N64. If I told you that there was a $50 Chinese handheld that could do all those things in this, and yeah, you know what, it can't do Super NES, or maybe I haven't found the right way to do it. If I told you that you could do all that for under $50, for a nice condition used one, you guys would be all over it. You guys would be buying it today off of AliExpress or whatever. But that thing, it does exist today. It exists for years, and you could get it on eBay right now real cheap. So I totally recommend this device. It's great. It performed way better than I expected. And another thing about the battery. The battery life is going to be a big concern. The battery didn't perform as well as I thought it would. This is how I came up with those figures. I charged it to 100%, then I played it for 30 minutes, and then I put it back on the dock so that way I could see how much power it had eaten up. It seems that the battery life is pretty consistent. Like I said, it eats about 12% for every 30 minutes. I know that test was totally unscientific. But the battery life, I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I would expect with those figures you would get I don't know, maybe about 4 to 5 hours worth of battery life of constant playing. It's just been a very incredible experience playing with this thing. And it's so simple. I like it that I didn't have to root it. It just works. It just works. That's what you have to say about it. And again, some people are going to say that no, it's inferior to, these other more recent Android things. Again, it's a numbers game, and people can always come back and tell me that no, the NVIDIA Shield has more performance, it has better battery life, it has blah, 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 it has all this shit. But when it comes down to comfort, this is one of the comfiest handhelds I've ever played, and it's so small. Let me show you this, where I have it. Here we go. Okay, back in the day, the Game Boy Micro was like the tiniest thing on earth. It was amazing. It was so small. Still today, people are like, oh my god, it's so small. Get this, it's barely smaller than an Xperia Play. Look at this thing. It's just maybe, a centimeter off right there. And they're about the same thickness too. This thing is tiny. It's smaller than you think it is. Yeah, this thing is great. I can totally recommend it. So, yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll even test a few things if you want me to in the comments and let you know how they performed. And yeah, otherwise, thanks for watching. I will see you next time.